Claire Morgan worked in the deep sections of orbital station Kepler-7, where the lights buzzed and the air recyclers hummed all day and night. She fixed pipes. She replaced filters. She checked wiring that nobody else wanted to check. It was quiet work, and she liked it that way. She was 28 years old, but sometimes she felt much older. She had pale skin and dark hair that she kept tied back in a simple knot. She wore loose coveralls that covered her arms and neck, even when the lower decks got warm. She spoke softly and rarely smiled. Most people on the station did not know her name. They walked past her like she was part of the machinery. That was exactly what Claire wanted. She had been on Kepler-7 for 3 years now. The station floated in neutral space, far from Earth and far from the borders where the wars had been fought. Thousands of beings lived here. Humans, Torvans, Keth, Minari, and dozens of other species. They came to trade, to work, to start new lives. Claire had come here to disappear every morning. She woke before the station lights brightened. She ate alone in her small quarters. She walked to work through empty corridors. She spoke to her supervisors only when necessary. She did her job well, collected her pay, and returned to her room. Day after day, the same routine. It was boring. It was safe. It was the life she had chosen, but today was different. Today, her brother was coming. Claire stood at Docking Bay 9 and watched the transport ship settle into its berth. Her heart beat a little faster than usual. She had not seen Danny in 2 years. He had been 16 when she left Earth. Now he was 19, a young man starting his career. The airlock doors opened, and passengers began walking out. Claire spotted Danny immediately. He was taller than she remembered, with the same brown hair and kind eyes as their mother. He carried a heavy bag over one shoulder and looked around with wonder at the massive station. When he saw Claire, his face broke into a wide smile. He dropped his bag and ran to her, wrapping her in a hug that lifted her off her feet. "Claire," he said, "I missed you so much." She hugged him back, though more gently. "I missed you too, Danny." He set her down and looked at her with concern. "You look tired. Are you eating enough? Are you sleeping okay?" "I am fine," she said. "Come, I will show you to your quarters." Danny talked the entire way. He told her about his engineering studies, about the internship program that had brought him here, about all the things he wanted to learn and see. His excitement filled the corridors like sunlight. Claire listened and nodded and felt something warm in her chest that she had not felt in a long time. His quarters were small but clean, just 2 rooms down from her own. She helped him unpack while he continued talking about his plans. "This is the opportunity of a lifetime," Danny said. "Working on a real station with real alien technology. Can you believe it?" "It is a good chance for you," Claire agreed. Danny paused and looked at her. "Are you happy here, Claire?" "You seem so quiet." "I've always been quiet." "Not always," he said softly. "You used to laugh more. Before you joined the military." Claire felt her shoulders tighten. That was a long time ago. Danny seemed to sense that he had touched something painful. He changed the subject quickly, asking about the best places to eat on the station. Claire was grateful for his kindness. He had always been that way, even as a child. Always trying to make others comfortable. Over the next few days, Danny threw himself into his work. He was assigned to the engineering team that maintained the station's power systems. His supervisors praised his quick learning and positive attitude. He made friends easily, chatting with humans and aliens alike in the common areas. Claire watched from a distance. She adjusted her schedule so she could check on him without being obvious about it. She told herself it was just sisterly concern. But deep down, she knew the truth. She was watching for threats. The threat came on the 5th day. Danny was eating lunch in Recreation Hall 4 when 3 Torvans walked in. Torvans were large reptilian beings with thick scales and sharp claws. They stood nearly 7 feet tall and had a culture built on dominance and strength. These 3 were young, probably around Danny's age. They wore expensive clothes and walked like they owned the station. The leader was named Grax. Claire had seen him before. He was the son of a wealthy trader, and he used his family's money to do whatever he wanted. He had a reputation for causing trouble. But nobody dared to stop him. Grax spotted Danny sitting alone and walked over with his 2 companions. Without warning, he knocked the food tray from Danny's hands. The tray clattered to the floor, spilling soup and bread everywhere. "Clumsy human," Grax said with a sharp laugh. "Your species cannot even hold a tray." Danny looked up at the massive alien. For a moment, fear flashed in his eyes. Then he forced a smile. "Sorry about that. My mistake." "Yes," Grax agreed. "Your mistake. Your entire species is a mistake." The other Torvans laughed. Other beings in the hall looked away, pretending not to see. Nobody wanted to get involved. Danny bent down to clean up the mess. Grax kicked the tray further away and laughed again. Claire appeared at the edge of the hall. She had heard the commotion and come running. Now she stood frozen, watching her brother on his knees while the aliens mocked him. Every muscle in her body screamed at her to act. Her hands wanted to curl into fists. Her legs wanted to carry her forward, but she forced herself to stay still. She took a slow breath and walked calmly across the hall. "Danny," she said quietly, "let me help you." She knelt beside him and began picking up the spilled food. Grax looked down at her with contempt. "Another human," he said. "Are you his mother? You look old enough." Claire did not respond. She kept her eyes on the floor. "I asked you a question, creature," Grax growled. "I am his sister," Claire said softly. "We do not want any trouble." Grax snorted. "Of course you do not. Humans never want trouble. You are too weak for trouble." He turned and walked away, his companions following. As they left, Grax called back over his shoulder. "Clean that floor properly, humans. This station should not smell like your food." Danny's hands were shaking. Claire helped him stand and guided him out of the hall. She did not speak until they reached his quarters. "Are you hurt?" she asked. "No," Danny said. "Just embarrassed." "Why did you not say anything to them?" "It would not have helped. But they were so cruel. Someone should stand up to them." Claire looked at her brother's kind face and felt her heart ache. He did not understand. Standing up to beings like Grax only made things worse. She had learned that lesson in Blood and Fire, in places Danny could never imagine. "Just stay away from them," she said. "Promise me." Danny nodded reluctantly. "I promise." That night, Claire sat alone in her dark quarters. Her hands were trembling. She rolled up her sleeve and looked at the old scars that covered her forearm. Each one had a story. Each one reminded her of who she used to be. She had made a promise to herself when she left the military. No more violence. No more killing. She would become someone new, someone peaceful. She would never go back to being the ghost. But as she sat in the darkness, thinking about her brother and the aliens who had humiliated him, she felt something cold stirring in her chest. Something she had buried deep. She closed her eyes and whispered to the empty room. "I will not break my promise. I will not." But even as she said the words, she was not sure she believed them. The harassment did not stop. It grew worse. Over the next 2 weeks, Grax and his companions made Danny's life miserable. They followed him through the corridors. They waited for him outside the engineering bay. They found new ways to humiliate him every day. One morning, Danny arrived at work to find his tools scattered across the floor. Someone had broken into his locker during the night. His supervisor helped him clean up, but said nothing about who might have done it. Everyone knew. Nobody wanted to say another day. Grax cornered Danny in a corridor and shoved him against the wall. The impact left a bruise on Danny's shoulder that lasted for a week. When other station workers walked by, they looked away and hurried past. The worst part was the rumors. Grax spread stories that humans carried diseases, that their sweat was poisonous, that their food was made from garbage. Some aliens began to believe it. Danny noticed that certain beings would move away from him in the halls. A Keth merchant refused to sell him supplies, claiming he did not serve contaminated species. Through it all, Danny tried to stay positive. He told himself that the internship was worth it. He told himself that Grax would eventually get bored and move on. He told himself that things would get better. He did not tell Claire how bad it really was, but Claire was watching. She had changed her work schedule to keep track of her brother. She followed him from a distance, staying hidden in maintenance passages and service corridors. She saw the Torvans push him. She saw them mock him. She saw the bruises that Danny tried to hide under his clothes. Each time she watched, something dark stirred inside her. Her body remembered things her mind wanted to forget. The way to move, the way to strike, the way to end a threat permanently. These memories lived in her muscles and bones. They woke up whenever she saw her brother in pain. One evening, Claire found Danny in his quarters, sitting on his bed with his head in his hands. His sleeve had ridden up, showing purple bruises on his arm. "What happened?" Claire asked quietly. Danny quickly pulled his sleeve down. "Nothing. I slept during work." "You did not slip. It is fine, Claire." "Really?" She sat beside him. "Danny, please tell me the truth." He was quiet for a long moment. Then his shoulders sagged. "They grabbed me in the cargo section. Grax said he wanted to show me where humans belong. He pushed me into some crates." Claire felt her jaw tighten. "Why did you not tell me?" "Because I knew you would worry. And because there is nothing anyone can do. His family is too powerful. The station commanders will not act against them. There is always something that can be done." Danny looked at her with tired eyes. "What would you do, Claire? Fight them? There are 3 of them, and they are twice your size." Claire said nothing. She did not trust herself to speak. That night, she had the dreams again. She was back on the battlefield, moving through smoke and fire. Enemy soldiers fell around her, but she could not see their faces. Her hands were covered in blood that was not her own. Someone was screaming, but she could not tell if the voice was hers. She woke gasping, her sheets soaked with sweat. The clock showed 3 in the morning. She sat on the edge of her bed and tried to slow her breathing. The dreams always came when she was stressed. They reminded her of the person she used to be. During the Varaxian border wars, she had served in an elite unit called the Night Division. They were sent on missions that nobody else could handle. Assassination, sabotage, operations that never appeared in official records. Claire had been one of their best. Her call sign was Ghost, because enemies died without ever seeing her coming. She had killed more beings than she could count. Humans, Varaxians, anyone who stood between her and her objective. Then came the mission on Tellus 4. The mission that broke her. She did not let herself think about Tellus 4. She had locked those memories away and thrown out the key. All she knew was that after Telos 4, she could not be a soldier anymore. She resigned, left Earth, and came to Kepler 7 to become nobody. But the ghost was still inside her, sleeping, waiting, ready to wake up. The next day, Claire was repairing a ventilation unit in the lower market when an old Tarvan approached her. He was smaller than most of his species, with scales that had faded to a dull gray. His eyes were sharp and intelligent. "You are the Morgan female," he said. It was not a question. Claire kept working. "Can I help you?" My name is Renix. I am a merchant here. I have been watching you. That is strange behavior. Renix made a sound that might have been a laugh. I am old enough to be strange. I am also old enough to recognize certain things. He leaned closer. I served in the border wars, on the other side from your people. I know what a warrior looks like, even when she is pretending to be something else. Claire's hands stopped moving. She did not look at him. The way you move, Renix continued. The way you watch everything. The way you check every exit before you enter a room. You are not a maintenance worker. You are a predator wearing prey clothing. You are mistaken. I do not think so. Renix stepped back. Grax is a fool. His father was a fool before him. They do not understand what they are playing with. But I understand. And I am telling you now, this situation will not end peacefully. Claire finally looked at him. What do you want from me? Nothing. I am simply giving you information. What you do with it is your choice. He turned to leave, then paused. The young Torvans are planning something. I do not know what, but they are excited about it. That is never good. He walked away, disappearing into the market crowd. Claire stood still for a long time. Her heart was beating fast, but her hands were steady. They were always steady when danger was near. That evening, she saw Grax in the corridor outside Danny's quarters. He was talking with his companions in low voices, pointing at Danny's door. When he noticed Claire watching, he smiled at her. It was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of someone planning something cruel. Hello again, human sister, he called out. Your brother is not home. But do not worry. We will find him eventually. We always do. He walked away laughing. His companions followed. Claire stood in the empty corridor. Her hands had curled into fists without her realizing it. She slowly forced them open. She went back to her quarters and sat in the darkness. She thought about Danny's bruises. She thought about Grax's smile. She thought about the old Tarvan's warning. Then she did something she had not done in 3 years. She opened a hidden compartment in her wall and took out a small communication device. She turned it on and sent a message to an old contact on Earth. I need to get my brother off this station, she wrote. Emergency transfer. How fast can you make it happen? The reply came an hour later. Fastest I can do is 3 weeks. What is wrong? Trouble. Bad people? Can you handle it? Claire looked at the message for a long time. 3 years ago, she would have laughed at that question. She could handle anything. But that was before she made her promise. Before she decided to stop being the ghost. I do not know, she wrote back. I hope I do not have to find out. She turned off the device and sat alone in the dark. Somewhere on the station, Grax was planning something terrible for her brother. And somewhere deep inside Claire, the ghost was beginning to wake up. She was running out of time to stay the person she had chosen to be. Claire was walking through a supply corridor on deck 12 when they found her. The corridor was narrow and poorly lit, lined with storage containers and spare parts. She was taking a shortcut back to her quarters after a long shift. She did not realize she had walked into a trap until it was too late. Grax stepped out from behind a container, blocking her path. His 2 companions, Vec and Sora, appeared behind her. She was surrounded. Human sister, Grax said. We have been looking for you. Claire stopped walking. She kept her eyes down and her shoulders low, making herself look small. I do not want any trouble. Nobody wants trouble. But trouble finds certain people anyway. Grax walked closer. He towered over her, his scaled body blocking the light. You keep appearing near your brother. Every time we try to have fun with him, you show up. I want to know why. He is my brother. I care about him. That is sweet. Grax's voice dripped with mockery. But I think there is something else. I think you believe, You can protect him from us." Claire said nothing. "Look at me when I speak to you." Grax growled. She kept her eyes on the floor. Grax grabbed her chin with his clawed hand and forced her head up. His grip was strong enough to bruise. I said, "Look at me, creature." Claire looked at him. For a moment, just a brief moment, something changed in her eyes. The fear disappeared. The submissiveness vanished. What remained was cold and empty and absolutely still. Grax felt something he had never felt before. A chill ran down his spine. His instincts, buried deep in his reptilian brain, screamed at him that he was in danger, that this small, quiet human was not what she appeared to be. Then the moment passed. Claire's eyes became soft and frightened again. She trembled in his grip. "Please," she whispered. "Let me go. I will stay away from Danny. I promise." Grax released her chin. He was confused by what he had seen. Had he imagined it? This human was tiny and weak. She was nothing. "Good," he said, though his voice was not as confident as before. "Stay away from your brother. Let us have our entertainment. If you interfere again, we will teach you the same lessons we are teaching him." He stepped aside and gestured for her to leave. Claire hurried past him, keeping her head down. Vec and Sora watched her go with hungry eyes. "She is afraid," Sora said. "Like all humans." "Yes," Grax agreed. But he was not entirely sure. Something about that moment bothered him. The way her eyes had changed. The way his body had reacted without his permission. He shook off the feeling. It was nothing. She was nothing. Claire walked back to her quarters with steady steps. Only when she was inside, with the door locked behind her, did she allow herself to breathe. Her hands were shaking, not from fear, from the effort of holding herself back. When Grax had grabbed her, every instinct in her body had activated. She had seen the attack points. His exposed throat, the soft tissue under his arms, the vulnerable spots where his scales did not overlap. She could have killed him in 3 moves. She could have killed all 3 of them before they understood what was happening. But she had not. She had stayed still. She had played the frightened human, the promise. She had to remember the promise. She sat on her bed and pressed her palms against her eyes. The ghost was awake now, fully awake, pacing inside her like a caged animal. It wanted out. It wanted to hunt. "No," she whispered to herself. "I am not that person anymore." But the ghost did not care what she wanted to be. It only cared about what she was. The next day, Danny came to her quarters with a troubled expression. He sat down heavily and looked at her with worried eyes. "I found something," he said. "In your storage box. I was looking for a power adapter, and I found a data chip. I am sorry, Claire. I should not have looked, but I did." Claire felt her blood turn cold. "What did you see?" "Military records, combat footage, mission reports." Danny's voice was barely a whisper. "I saw you, Claire. I saw what you did, what you were." She closed her eyes. This was the moment she had feared for years. "You were a soldier," Danny continued. "But not just any soldier. You were special forces, elite. The footage showed you fighting Varaxian warriors, 3 times your size. You moved so fast I could barely follow. You killed them like it was nothing. Danny, please. Why did you not tell me? All these years, I thought you were just a maintenance worker. I thought you left the military because you could not handle it. But you were a hero. You were amazing." Claire opened her eyes. "I was not a hero. The commendation said otherwise. They called you Ghost. They said you saved hundreds of lives. I also took hundreds of lives." Her voice was flat and empty. "I killed people, Danny, not just soldiers. Sometimes there were others who got in the way. I did things that would give you nightmares. Danny was silent. That is why I left, Claire said. Not because I could not handle it. Because I was too good at it. I started to enjoy it. The killing. The power. I felt like a god. She looked at her hands. Then something happened. A mission that went wrong. And I realized what I had become. A monster. Claire, I came here to start over. To be someone different. I promised myself I would never hurt anyone again. I would never be the ghost again. Tears were forming in her eyes. Please, Danny, please let me stay who I am now. I cannot go back to being that person. I cannot. Danny moved closer and put his arms around her. She stiffened at first, then slowly relaxed into the embrace. I understand, he said softly. I will not tell anyone. And I will not ask you to be something you do not want to be. Thank you. They sat together in silence for a while. Finally, Danny pulled back and looked at her. But Claire, those Torvans are not going to stop. They are getting worse. Grax said something yesterday about teaching me a permanent lesson. I am scared. I am trying to get you transferred off the station. It will take a few more weeks. What if we do not have weeks? Claire did not have an answer. That night, she could not sleep. She lay in bed and stared at the ceiling and listened to the sound of the station around her. Somewhere out there, Grax was planning something horrible. And somewhere inside her, the ghost was waiting. She thought about the promise she had made to herself. No more violence. No more killing. She had kept that promise for 3 years. It had become the foundation of her new identity. But what good was a promise if Danny got hurt? What good was her peaceful new life if her brother was destroyed by creatures who saw him as nothing? She did not know the answer. She did not know what she would do when the moment came. But deep down, in the place where the ghost lived, she suspected she already knew. When Grax finally crossed the line, when he finally threatened the only person Claire loved, she would not be able to stop herself. The ghost would return, and everyone would see what a human warrior was truly capable of. Danny received a message during his lunch break. It came through the station work system, marked as an official request. Engineering assistance needed. Cargo Bay 7. Equipment malfunction. Please respond immediately. He did not recognize the sender, but that was not unusual. The station was large, and workers from different departments rarely knew each other. He finished his meal quickly and headed for the cargo section. Cargo Bay 7 was in a remote area of the station, far from the busy corridors and popular sections. Danny had never been there before. As he walked through the empty hallways, he felt a strange unease growing in his chest. Something felt wrong. The cargo bay doors were open when he arrived. Inside, the lights were dim. Stacks of containers rose like mountains in the shadows. Danny stepped inside and looked around. Hello? Someone called for engineering help? The doors slammed shut behind him. He spun around and saw Grax standing there, his scaled face twisted in a cruel smile. Vec and Sora emerged from behind the containers, blocking the other exits. Hello, human, Grax said. Thank you for coming. Danny's heart began to pound. What is this? There is no equipment malfunction, is there? No, there is not. Grax walked forward slowly, enjoying the fear on Danny's face. I sent that message because I wanted to talk with you. Privately, without your sister watching. I do not want trouble. Just let me leave. But we do want trouble. Grax spread his clawed hands. You see, your presence on this station has become annoying. You walk around like you belong here. You smile at people. You act like you are equal to superior species. It is offensive. I never did anything to you. Your existence is something to me. Grax's eyes narrowed. Humans are weak, soft. You have no claws, no scales, no natural weapons. Yet somehow your species is spread across the galaxy like a disease. It disgusts me. That is not my fault. I just want to learn and do my job. And I just want to remind you where you belong. Grax looked at his companions. Hold him. Vec and Sora grabbed Danny's arms and forced him to his knees. He struggled, but they were far too strong. Grax walked closer and looked down at him like he was examining an insect. I'm going to make an example of you, Grax said. When I am finished, every human on this station will remember to stay in their place. They will remember what happens when they forget that they are prey. He raised his clawed hand. Danny closed his eyes. He thought of his sister. He wished he had told her where he was going. He wished he could see her one more time. The first blow knocked his head sideways. Pain exploded across his face. Blood filled his mouth. Claire could not find Danny. She checked his quarters. Empty. She checked the engineering bay. His supervisor said he had left for a maintenance call an hour ago. She checked the dining halls, the recreation areas, the places where he usually spent his free time. Nothing. The unease she felt grew into something worse. Something cold and sharp in her chest. She went to a security terminal and used her maintenance codes to access the station's internal systems. She searched for Danny's location tracker. All station workers had chips in their badges that showed their position. The screen showed Danny in Cargo Bay 7. Claire frowned. Cargo Bay 7 was empty. It had been closed for repairs for months. There was no reason for anyone to send Danny there, unless someone wanted him alone. She ran. The corridors blurred around her as she moved. She did not think about what she would find. She did not think about her promise. She only thought about reaching her brother before it was too late. When she reached Cargo Bay 7, the doors were locked. She could hear sounds from inside. Thumping, grunting, voice crying out in pain. Danny's voice. Claire stood in front of the door. Her hands were shaking, but not from fear. From something much older and much more dangerous. She entered her override code. The door slid open. Inside, she saw everything at once. Danny on his knees, blood running from his nose and mouth. Vec and Sora holding his arms. Grax standing over him, drawing back his fist for another blow. They all turned to look at her. Sister, Grax said with a surprised laugh. You found us. I am impressed. But you are too late to help. Claire stepped into the cargo bay. The doors closed behind her. Something was different about her. She stood straighter. Her shoulders were back. Her eyes were not looking at the floor anymore. They were fixed on Grax with an intensity that made him pause. Let him go, Claire said. Her voice was calm and clear. No fear. No pleading. Grax recovered his confidence. Or what? Will you report us to station security? They will not help you. They never help humans. This is your only warning. Let him go and walk away. Vec laughed. Listen to this creature. She thinks she can give orders. She is brave, Sora agreed. Stupid but brave. Grax smiled and stepped away from Danny. He walked toward Claire, his massive body blocking the light. You should have stayed hidden, little human. Now you will share your brother's lesson. Claire did not move. She did not flinch. She stood perfectly still and watched him approach. Nothing to say? Grax asked. No more warnings? I gave you a chance, Claire said softly. Remember that. I gave you a chance to walk away. Grax reached for her. His clawed hand moved toward her throat, and then Claire stopped pretending. She moved in one fluid motion. She stepped inside Grax's reach, grabbed his wrist, and twisted. The joint made a sick cracking sound. Grax screamed and stumbled backward, clutching his broken wrist in disbelief. Vec released Danny and charged at Claire with a roar. He was fast for his size. It did not matter. Claire sidestepped his rush. struck him in the throat with her palm, then drove her knee into the side of his leg. He collapsed, choking and unable to stand. Sora came next, swinging his claws in wide arcs. Claire ducked under the first swing, blocked the second, and delivered 3 rapid strikes to his face and body. Throat, solar plexus, temple. Each hit was precise and devastating. Sora fell and did not get up. The entire fight had taken 8 seconds. Grax stared at her with wide eyes. His broken wrist hung at his side. He could not understand what he had just seen. This small human, this quiet, frightened creature, had destroyed his companions like they were nothing. "What are you?" he whispered. Claire turned to face him. Her expression had changed. Gone was the soft, passive woman who avoided eye contact. In her place stood something else entirely. Something cold. Something dangerous. "I am what happens when you hurt my family," she said. "I am the ghost." Grax tried to run. He got 2 steps before Claire caught him. She swept his legs and brought him crashing to the floor. Then she stood over him, looking down at his terrified face. "Please," he gasped. "Please do not kill me." Claire said nothing. She was fighting something inside herself. The ghost wanted to finish this. The ghost wanted to make him suffer for every bruise on Danny's body, every moment of fear, every cruel word. It would be so easy, so satisfying. But Danny was watching. Her brother, still on his knees, still bleeding, was watching her with wide eyes. And she saw something in those eyes that cut through the darkness in her heart. He was afraid. Not of G.H. Rax. Of her. Claire took a deep breath. Then another. The ghost howled inside her, demanding release. But she forced it back. She chained it down. She remembered who she had chosen to be. "I am not going to kill you," she said to Grax. "But I want you to understand something. I could kill all 3 of you right now, and nobody would ever know what happened. You would just disappear." Grax nodded frantically. "If you ever touch my brother again," Claire continued, "if you ever speak to him, look at him, or even think about hurting him, I will find you. And next time, I will not stop myself. Do you understand?" "Yes," Grax sobbed. "Yes, I understand." Claire stepped back. She walked to Danny and helped him to his feet. Her hands were gentle now, the violence gone as quickly as it had come. "Can you walk?" she asked. Danny nodded. He was still staring at her like he had never seen her before. "Then let us go." She guided him toward the door, leaving the 3 broken Torvans behind. As they walked, Danny finally found his voice. "Claire." That was... "I know," she said quietly. "I know." They did not speak again until they were far away from Cargo Bay 7. But Danny kept glancing at his sister, seeing her for the first time. The quiet maintenance worker. The gentle sister. The ghost. They were all the same person. And he was only beginning to understand what that meant. Station security arrived at Cargo Bay 7 20 minutes after Claire and Danny left. They found 3 Torvans on the ground. Vec was still unconscious. Sora was groaning and holding his head. Grax was sitting against a wall, cradling his broken wrist and staring at nothing. Commander Ewan reviewed the security footage personally. She watched it 3 times, her expression growing more amazed with each viewing. She had served in the military for 15 years before taking this administrative post. She knew combat when she saw it. What the human woman had done was not just combat. It was art. The official ruling came quickly. Clear self-defense. The Torvans had lured Danny Morgan to an isolated location, locked the doors, and beaten him. His sister had arrived and protected him using proportional force. No charges would be filed against either human. Grax's father tried to protest. He sent angry messages demanding punishment for the humans who had injured his son. Commander Ewan responded by releasing selected portions of the security footage to the station network. The images showed Grax and his friends attacking a defenseless human worker. Within hours, public opinion turned completely against the Tavon family. 3 days later, Grax and his companions were quietly deported from Kepler-7. Their families' trading licenses were suspended for 6 months. They left the station in disgrace, and everyone who saw them go remembered why. Danny recovered quickly. The medical bay fixed his broken nose and treated his bruises. Within a week, the physical evidence of his beating had faded. The psychological effects would take longer to heal. He sat in Claire's quarters on the evening after the incident, watching his sister make tea. She moved the same way she always had, quiet and careful. But now he understood what lay beneath that calmness. He had seen what she could become when pushed too far. "How do you feel?" he asked. Claire set down 2 cups of tea and sat across from him. "I should ask you that question." "I am fine. Sore, but fine." He paused. "I meant, how do you feel about what happened? About what you did?" She wrapped her hands around her cup and stared at the steam rising from the liquid. "I do not know. Part of me feels relieved. They cannot hurt you anymore. But another part of me feels ashamed." "Ashamed?" "You saved my life. I broke my promise. I swore I would never be violent again. I swore I would never let the ghost out." She looked at him with tired eyes. "And the worst part is, it felt good. When I was fighting them, when I was hurting them, it felt right. Like I was finally being myself again." Danny reached across the table and took her hand. "Claire, listen to me. What you did was not wrong. Those creatures were going to seriously hurt me. Maybe kill me. You stopped them. There is always another way. I could have called security. I could have found help. There was no time. You know that. If you had waited, I would be in much worse shape. Or dead." Claire was quiet for a long moment. Danny could see her struggling with something deep inside. "When I was in the military," she said finally, "I lost myself. I became a weapon. I stopped seeing enemies as people. They were just targets, obstacles, things to be removed." She shook her head slowly. "After Telos 4, I realized what I had become. I was disgusted with myself. That is why I made the promise. That is why I came here." "What happened on Telos 4? Claire's face went pale. "I cannot talk about that. Not yet. Maybe not ever." Danny squeezed her hand. "Okay, I will not push. But I want you to understand something." She looked at him directly. "Tonight, when I was standing over Grax, the ghost wanted me to kill him. It would have been easy. He deserved it for what he did to you. And I wanted to do it. I wanted it so badly. But you did not." "No, I did not. Because you were watching. Because I saw fear in your eyes, and I could not stand the thought of you being afraid of me." Tears were forming in her eyes now. "You are the only family I have left, Danny. You are the reason I keep trying to be better. If I lose you, if you start to see me as a monster, then what is the point of any of this?" Danny moved around the table and put his arms around his sister. She was tense at first, then slowly relaxed into the embrace. "I am not afraid of you," he said softly. I was surprised, shocked, but not afraid. "You are my sister. You saved my life. Nothing changes that. But now you know what I am capable of. I know what you chose not to do. That matters more." They sat together in silence for a while. The station hummed around them, a constant reminder that life continued even after terrible things happened. The next morning, Claire found Renix waiting for her outside her quarters. The old Tarvan stood with his hands clasped behind his back, his faded scales catching the corridor light. "I heard what happened," he said. "The whole station is talking about it. I did not want attention. Then, You should not have embarrassed 3 Torvans in 8 seconds. People notice such things. Claire sighed. What do you want? Rennick studied her for a moment. Then he did something unexpected. He bowed his head, lowering it slightly in a gesture of deep respect. I told you before that I recognize what you are, he said. A predator wearing prey clothing. But I was wrong about something. What? I thought you were just a killer. Someone who fought because they enjoyed it. But I watched the footage. I saw you standing over Grax with every reason to end his life. And I saw you choose not to. He raised his head. That is rare. Among my people, among humans, among any species. The ability to destroy completely and then choose mercy instead. It requires tremendous strength. Claire did not know how to respond. You are not just a warrior, Renix continued. You are something better. A warrior who decides when to fight and when to stop. A predator who has tamed herself. He smiled slightly. I hope you find peace, Claire Morgan. You have earned it. He walked away without another word. Claire watched him go, thinking about what he had said. She had spent 3 years hating the ghost, trying to bury it, trying to pretend it did not exist. But maybe that was the wrong approach. Maybe the ghost was not something to be destroyed. Maybe it was something to be controlled. She could not change what she had been. She could not erase the things she had done. But she could choose who she wanted to become. She could use her abilities to protect instead of destroy. She could be both the quiet maintenance worker and the deadly warrior. Maybe the measure of a person was not their capacity for violence, but the choices they made about when to use it. That evening, Claire stood at the observation deck, watching the stars drift past. Danny came to stand beside her, his shoulder touching hers. Commander Ewan offered me a permanent position, he said. After the internship ends. She says the station needs engineers like me. Are you going to take it? I do not know. What do you think? Claire considered the question. A month ago, she would have told him to go back to Earth, to stay far away from her and the danger she represented. But things had changed. I think you should do what makes you happy, she said. And if you stay, I will be here. I will always be here to protect you. Danny smiled. Even if it means letting the ghost out sometimes? Claire looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, wars were being fought. People were dying. New threats were emerging that would eventually reach this station, this corner of space that she had chosen as her hiding place. She could not run from who she was forever. The universe would not allow it. But maybe running was never the answer. Maybe the answer was to stand still and face whatever came, with clear eyes and a steady heart. If I have to, she said finally, but only when there is no other choice, and only to protect the people I love. Danny put his arm around her shoulder. That sounds like a good promise to make. It is a hard one to keep. The best ones always are. They stood together in silence, brother and sister, watching the endless stars. Behind Claire's calm expression, the ghost rested quietly, no longer a source of shame but a part of who she was. She was Claire Morgan, maintenance technician, quiet woman, loving sister. And when the darkness came, when the bullies and monsters threatened the innocent, she would be something else entirely. She would be the ghost, and that was okay.